It was a 6-year-old neighbor's boy who first saw the bloody and mutilated bodies through the basement window of 304 Cameron Road. Inside the home were 3 deceased bodies, that of Mark Richardson, his wife Deborah, and their 8-year-old son Jacob. Neighbors considered the Richardson family as a quiet, loving, and normal family. A former neighbor named Bob said they were the family we all wish we had. Deborah was a seaman who built a pleasant, happy home, and Mark's only plan was to do right by his family. Things weren't always going this well for the family. Before Mark met Deborah, they both struggled with drugs. Fortunately, Mark and Deborah found support in each other, meeting for the first time in an addiction recovery program. Getting married soon after, they had been happily married for 15 years. The police arrived at the scene at 1:34 p.m. Neighbors and onlookers had already formed when the detectives kicked down the front door and entered the murder scene. One police heard a faint whimpering, which turned out to be the family's dog lying next to the dead body of Deborah Richardson. Deborah's position was unnatural. Police found her body naked from the waist down. Her blue nightgown was hiked up with smeared blood covering her legs. Deborah was murdered first after she surprised the intruder downstairs. A struggle took place according to Deborah's defensive wounds, but ultimately she was overpowered and repeatedly stabbed. Mark was second to be murdered. Mark's arms were frozen and his fists were clenched tightly and in an upward position from the rigor mortis. Besides Mark's body was a black-handled knife, which would eventually be determined to be the murder weapon. Also besides Mark's body was a screwdriver for which he grabbed to defend himself. Both Mark and Deborah had defensive wounds showing the couple fought back. Inside Jacob's room, police found the murdered boy lying on his right side, still in his underwear, and with a large knife plunged into his throat. There was an extensive amount of blood showing the boy bled out quickly. However, police also found his blood-soaked prized possession, a Star Wars lightsaber, which he used to defend himself against his killer. When detectives first entered the residence, they didn't know that there were 4 family members who lived in the house. 12-year-old Jasmine Richardson was nowhere to be found. Thinking that Jasmine was abducted and being held captive, they visited Jasmine's school where they opened her locker for any information about her whereabouts. What fell out of the locker was shocking. Jasmine's drawing showed a cartoon strip laying out a murder plot of her entire family. The illustration shows 2 stick figures pouring gasoline into a water sprinkler. The other 3 figures are unaware that they are about to be lit on fire. "Oh no, we're covered in gasoline. I'm being burned alive. Help, my flesh is being burned off." Clearly, Jasmine had been planning to kill her family much before the actual murder took place. At age 11, Deborah's sweet daughter adopted a unique look and personality, a stark difference to the smiling and happy little girl in other family photos. Now Jasmine was dressing in all black, wearing eyeliner, dog collars, short skirts, chains, and watching movies such as Edward Scissorhands and Natural Born Killers. She started hanging out with older men and becoming sexually active. Mark and Deborah started enforcing tougher restrictions on Jasmine, such as no internet or phone and no hanging out with her friends. It was on social media where Jasmine would eventually form a connection to a 23-year-old high school dropout named Jeremy Steinke. Jeremy is goth and referred to himself as a soul eater. Jeremy was a horrible influence on Jasmine's young and developing mind. At the time, still living in his mom's trailer, he would hang out with 11 and 12-year-old girls at the local mall. Jasmine's parents were furious that their daughter was hanging out with someone as worthless as Jeremy. Jeremy would ultimately be the person who Jasmine coaxed into helping her kill her entire family. Growing up, Jeremy was both heavily abused and bullied. Jeremy Steinke became his nickname, and he was picked on mercilessly by his peers about his alcoholic mother and poor living situation. From Jeremy's own words about his stepfather, "He had a tendency to abuse me and my siblings. He'd tie us to chairs and make us watch the other children get abused as well." Shortly before driving to murder the Richardson family, Jeremy consumed a case of beer, several shots of vodka, several lines of cocaine, and an ecstasy pill. According to him, he was off like a rocket. Wearing a black face mask, black fishnet arm stockings, leather wristband, neck bandana, and eyeliner, Jeremy snuck into the home and was immediately confronted downstairs by Deborah and started stabbing. Mark surprised Jeremy when he barreled down the stairs wielding a screwdriver, and according to his own words, "He came at me fast. I was scared shitless. I thought I was going down. I went to back up and I tripped and fell, and he jumped on me and attempted to stab me in the chest. He grabbed my face and shoved his thumb in my eye." The last words Mark would ever hear before his death, after asking why was he being stabbed, was, "It's what your daughter wanted." The blade used to kill Mark was bent at the tip, showing that his killer hit his bone with the murder weapon. Now that Jasmine's parents were dead, it was time to kill 8-year-old Jacob, who was upstairs cowering in his bed. After a failed attempt to suffocate her little brother, saying, "Shh, go to sleep," Jeremy handed the blade to Jasmine and she stuck it deep through his neck. The excess of blood led investigators to refer to the murder scene as a major bloodletting event. Jasmine would later claim that her little brother gargled as she plunged the knife into his neck. Jasmine went on trial June 2007. She was 14 years old at the time. She pled not guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder. The trial lasted approximately a month, and in July 2007, after 3 hours of deliberation, the jury brought back the verdict: guilty on all 3 counts. In November of 2007, Jasmine was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment, which is the maximum sentence allowed by the Youth Criminal Justice Act. The act states that any convicts who are under the age of 14 at the time they committed the act cannot be charged as adults and can be given a maximum sentence of 10 years. Jasmine's sentence included credit for 18 months for time served, with 4 years to be spent in a psychiatric facility, followed by 4.5 under conditional supervision in the community. In December 2008, Jasmine's boyfriend and accomplice Jeremy was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to 3 concurrent life sentences in prison. He will be eligible for parole after serving 25 years. Jasmine, now 25 years old, is currently a free woman living in an undisclosed location.